Most of us feel like we know the story of Cinderella, right? But the version we're familiar with has been polished and changed over many, many years. Today, we're going straight to the source. We're doing a dramatic reading of J.R. Planche's 1858 text. And what we find is that the story is so much more than just a glass slipper. It's a really fascinating window into the values of the time, a look at social status, virtue, and two very different ideas about what it really takes to get ahead in life. So let's dive in. Right from the very first line, the tone is set. The stepmother isn't just a little mean. She is, and I quote, the haughtiest and proudest woman that had ever been seen. This is not subtle at all. It's a classic feature of these old fairy tales. You establish these extreme characters to draw a very clear, very stark line between good and evil right from the get-go. And then, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we meet our hero. She's described as having gentleness and goodness without parallel. This immediately sets up the main conflict as something bigger than just family drama. It's really a moral battle. In the world of this story, Cinderella's virtue is the very thing that makes her a target. Her goodness just highlights the ugliness of everyone around her, and for that, she has to be punished. This really shows you just how obsessed the story is with status and appearances. The stepsisters' luxurious rooms, with their fancy beds and mirrors everywhere, that's not just about comfort. It's a constant visual reminder of their high status. And Cinderella's wretched straw mattress in the attic, well, that does more than just make her uncomfortable. It physically separates her, casting her out in her own home. This physical distance is absolutely crucial to understanding her suffering, and later, her incredible transformation. The names in this story are so important. Cindertail is such a cruel, nasty nickname, designed to connect her to the dirt and the fireplace. But the name we all know, Cinderella, actually comes from the sister who is not so rude. It softens the insults just a little bit. It's a small detail, but it shows that the cruelty in the house wasn't just one solid block of evil, and it tells us that even at her lowest point, a little spark of her true self remained. So then comes the invitation to the royal ball, and this is the event that really kicks the whole plot into gear. Now, this isn't just a party. In the rigid society of the 19th century, a ball like this was a huge deal. It was the ultimate fantasy of climbing the social ladder. For the stepsisters, it's a strategic mission to marry into a higher class. But for Cinderella, it represents this beautiful world of acceptance that she is completely and cruelly shut out from. The sisters are completely obsessed with how they look, which points to one of the story's big themes, outer beauty versus inner virtue. They are all about their red velvet and diamonds. But the real irony here, and it's a great one, is that Cinderella, with her excellent taste, is the one they ask for advice. It's a really clever way the story shows us that true elegance, true style, is something you're born with. It has nothing to do with the price of your dress. This moment is just heartbreaking, and it's meant to be. The sisters mock her, they use that awful nickname Cindertail, and it's all about reminding her that she doesn't belong. So when she cries, it's not just about missing a party. It's about the absolute hopelessness of her situation, being made to feel completely worthless by the people who are supposed to be her family. Just when things look their absolute bleakest, the fairy godmother shows up. Now, this is a classic literary trick, sometimes called deus ex machina, literally God from the machine. It's when an outside force suddenly swoops in to solve a problem that seems impossible. In stories from this era, it often had a moral purpose. It was like the universe itself stepping in to reward a good person who couldn't help herself. But what's really cool here is where the magic comes from. Think about it. It's all rooted in these ordinary, even lowly things from her daily life. A pumpkin from the garden, mice from the mousetrap, a rat, some lizards. The magic works by turning the mundane into the magnificent, which is a perfect metaphor for Cinderella's own journey. And this is the final, most personal piece of the transformation. Her rags turning into cloth of gold and silver isn't just a costume change. It's a symbol of her inner worth finally being seen on the outside. And then you have the famous glass slippers. They're beautiful, they're fragile, and they are completely impractical. They're the ultimate symbol of pure fantasy, of the magical, dreamlike quality of this one special night. And of course, there's a catch, isn't there? The midnight deadline. This is just a brilliant bit of storytelling. It injects a massive amount of tension and suspense into the night. It makes it crystal clear that her time in this fantasy world is borrowed. It's temporary, which raises the stakes and makes her eventual escape from the ball that much more exciting. So when Cinderella arrives at the ball, she's a total mystery. She's introduced as a grand princess whom nobody knew, and this anonymity is absolutely crucial. It means the entire court, including the prince, has to judge her only on her grace and her presence, without any of the prejudice that would come with her real name and her low status. She gets a truly fresh start. Can you just picture it? A dead silence falls over the entire room. Her presence literally stops everything. The dancing stops, the music stops. This tells you that her impact is about way more than just a pretty dress. She has this captivating quality, this natural nobility that her new clothes are just allowing everyone else to finally see. But she's so happy, so amused by the prince's attentions, that she completely forgets her godmother's warning. And it's such a human moment, isn't it? She's so caught up in the kind of joy she's been denied her whole life that she just loses track of time. The clock striking 12 is that harsh, unwelcome sound of her old reality crashing back into her perfect fantasy. And just like that, the spell is breaking. She has to run. Her escape is described as being as lightly as a fawn, which again points to her natural grace, even when she's in a panic. And the dropped slipper? Well, that's the whole story, isn't it? It becomes the one real, tangible clue from her magical night, the only thing connecting the fantasy of the ball to her grim life back home. So now the prince is on a mission. His quest to find the owner of the slipper is a classic fairy tale move, the love test. The slipper itself becomes the symbol of Cinderella's uniqueness. Only she can fit into it. In these older stories, a hero's entire identity could often be proven by one single simple test like this, creating a very clear path to finding the perfect match. And when Cinderella asks to try on the slipper, what do her sisters do? You guessed it, they laugh, they ridicule her. Even with a royal marriage potentially on the line, their one defining trait is their need to put Cinderella down. This constant cruelty is important for the story because it makes their eventual downfall and her triumph feel so much more satisfying for us. You know, this part's actually really interesting. In a story that has been so unfair, Cinderella is saved by a moment of, well, procedural fairness. The gentleman simply insists on following his orders. Try the slipper on all girls without exception. It's this small, almost bureaucratic detail that makes the whole magical ending possible.
And Ned, it fits. It goes on easily and fits like wax. This is the moment of her ultimate public victory. But the real power move is when she calmly pulls the other slipper out of her pocket, removing any possible doubt. And then, what's the first thing she does? She forgives her sisters. This act proves her gentleness and goodness are real, showing that she's not just lucky, she's morally superior.
So the story wraps up with a happy ending. But as was common in this era, it's not quite over until you get the explicit moral of the story. And this is where this 1858 version gets really, really interesting. Because it doesn't give us just one moral, it gives us two very different, almost contradictory lessons. The first moral is pretty much what you'd expect. It says that inner beauty is more important than outer beauty, claiming that amiability and a sweet temper are what really matter. This fits perfectly with the ideal of feminine virtue at the time. It's the nice, tidy lesson that the story seems to have been teaching us all along. But then, the text immediately does a 180 and offers a second, much more cynical moral. It basically says, sure, talent and virtue are great, but if you really want to succeed in the real world, what you actually need are powerful connections, in this case, a godmother. This is such a worldly, pragmatic piece of advice that it seems to completely undercut the first moral. And so, this 1858 version of Cinderella leaves us with this incredible tension. Is the story a celebration of how goodness will always win out in the end? Or is it actually saying that success is pretty much impossible without a little magical help from a powerful friend? It suggests that maybe, even in a fairy tale, a sweet temper isn't quite enough. You still need some magic and a powerful connection on your side.